This is your guide to succeeding as an entrepreneurial leader. Whether you're in business, a parent, or part of a community project, we can all be entrepreneurial leaders. With your host, Jeannette Seibly, the Leadership Results Coach, and a variety of experts in leadership, you'll learn how to create extraordinary work and life results, stand up and speak up, make more money and have more fun, and get out of your own way. The biggest challenge is we don't like to ask for help and get stuck as do-it-yourselfers. Well, not anymore. Now here's your host, Jeannette Seibly, ready to help you become a successful entrepreneurial leader.
Hello, this is Jeannette Seibly, and today's podcast is talking about building and rekindling relationships. Yes, I know. Some of you immediately went to a bad boss, that horrible coworker, or that family member that you will do anything to avoid. But here's the thing for entrepreneurial leaders. You cannot succeed alone. And it's important to build relationships with like-minded people. That is why I invited today's guest, Marsha Haygood, who's a business coach and author, to talk with us about how to develop those relationships, because she works with a lot of business professionals to build their success. And as she'll tell you, if you don't have those relationships, guess what? You're probably going to get yourself in trouble. I love the quote that she provided for today's conversation. There is no bad time to connect with people that you want to build a relationship with. But contacting people only when you want a favor is definitely inappropriate and will send the message that you are a user. So Marsha, good morning and welcome.
Good morning to you, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. It is nice to talk about this subject because so often people forget. And they say they were too busy to connect. They were too busy to build a relationship. And oftentimes now I see people thinking that they have relationships because they've pressed the like button or the fan button on social media. That's not really connecting. That's not really establishing a relationship. So we need to talk about what establishing a relationship is. It means knowing another person. It means listening to another person. God forbid we're going to listen to what other people have to say. And oftentimes it means helping someone else. Because when you can help someone, it should make you feel good, and it will be viewed as you having some empathy, if that's the case, or a good listening ear, and it helps build your brand.
Yeah.
Your personal brand.
And I love that. I love the tenor of that. And, you got to say what it isn't before you can say what it is. And you got to address where you get hung up before you can actually go forward. Or it's like putting frosting on a mud pie and calling it a cake. It just ain't going to go anywhere. So as you know, as I said just a few minutes ago, is that relationships can be scary to some people. Yeah. And in fact, yesterday, a friend of mine told me, after witnessing a woman unleash her upset on another woman, she goes and points at them and goes, "That's why I don't trust anyone and rely only on myself." I mean, she was just so adamant about that. Uh-huh. So how does somebody get over that fear factor? And then we can talk about some really cool ideas that you have on how to build really good, solid relationships. Mm-hmm. Where, that might happen, where somebody might unleash something on you, unwarranted or warranted, one or the other. But how do you handle that? So,
well, first of all, I don't know that it's just fear. Sometimes it's just an uncomfortableness. Okay. And uncomfortableness usually comes from not knowing how, or feeling like you're going to be rejected, or not say the right thing. And you need to step out of your comfort zone in order to grow. So your friend who said, I only want to depend on myself, is limiting her happiness and is limiting her success. So stepping outside of your comfort zone a little bit to talk to people, to listen to people, to possibly help people, helps to make you more of a positive person. I'm going to dare say, Jeannette, that if the person only counts on themselves, they're pretty unhappy, even when they're alone.
Well, I think that may be true. And again, I don't know, but I know that, sometimes women, I don't know. I don't know that it's a gender thing, is it, with relationships?
I don't think so, but I think that it may not be a gender thing. It may, however, you may see it differently. I think men will tolerate someone who they don't particularly care for or don't agree with or have no relationship with, have nothing in common with, to serve a purpose.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily a bad purpose. It's just to serve a purpose. Oftentimes, we as women get in our own way and sabotage our own success.
Yes.
Because we think everything has to be perfect.
Or it has to look a particular way.
It has to look a particular way. It has to feel a particular way. Yeah. And that's not necessarily the case. So when I talk about establishing a relationship, that may be a little harder than rekindling a relationship. Okay. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, don't start with, oh my goodness, let me contact, this person who is just so high on the ladder or different than I am.
Or somebody that I haven't really completed that last conversation we had because I was too upset with her.
That's right.
I mean, we have a lot of people today that get offended, right? I mean, somebody says something or they make a particular gesture, and guess what? Everyone goes, oh my goodness.
But that's not where you start.
Good. Okay, so where do we start?
Yeah, start with the people who you know, like, and who have helped you along the way. Because chances are, if you have been successful at anything, someone has helped you get there. So start there. And when you think about that, you will think about people who have helped you along the way, who you have not contacted because you've been too busy or you didn't know what to say. So how about just saying, thank you? How about just saying, just crossed my mind, and we haven't spoken in a long time, just wanted to say hello. Certain times of the year, if you know their birthday, if it's a holiday, I cannot tell you how many people have sent out things for Thanksgiving. What are you grateful for? Think about those things that you're grateful for. Think about the holiday coming up and how you can say the holidays are coming up. And when I think of old friends, I think of you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. I like the fact that it's a conversation. I like the personal touch, but I'm an extrovert. Everyone's not. Sometimes it means you'll send a little note. Sometimes it means it's only a text. Sometimes it's a voicemail. And I say, when you can't come up with anything to say because you get caught in your own words, I like to tell people, go to the card store, open up some of the nice cards, take a picture, even if you don't want to buy the card. Take a picture and develop some words that you can use, that you can say, thank you.
And well, and just a reminder here for those of you who want to plagiarize, nothing wrong with that as long as you give the author their due.
Give the author their due, but you're not even copying word for word. You're just gathering some phrases that you can use to that make it sound nice. You know how nice you feel when you get something from someone. Do the same thing. Yes, you can do that on social media, but that personal touch will add to you feeling more comfortable the next time.
So what you're saying then, instead of using a text or an email or some kind of other social media kind of app or anything, it's just use the regular good old USPS postal service, right?
I love that. I like to write little cards to people. Now, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you don't have that person's address. All you have is that person's email. Then write it in an email. But you can also say, but I'd love to connect. I'd love to catch up with you. If you have not seen or spoken to them in a while, saying, I was thinking of you, and you say all the niceties, and then you'd say, I'd love to schedule a catch-up call when you have time.
Well, and another thing that you can do, and somebody did this to me just last week, and it was so special, but she went to my website, and every website is required to have an address. And so she copied down the address and she sent me her newest journal. And it's really beautiful. It was a nice surprise,
Yes, absolutely.
And it really it just like shifted the relationship. It was subtle, but you feel differently, don't you?
That's right.
Those things, when you receive something like that, something you can touch and hold.
And I love doing cards. I love doing little thank you cards, little note cards. Sometimes if you've been listening to the person, if you've been talking to the person, or you've been following the person, you also know something that they like. So I like to send, if someone says that they've been cooking or they're going someplace, I'll research. Oh, they're going to Italy, this part of Italy. I'll send a little article about Italy. Or they love to cook. Saw this great recipe, and as soon as I saw it, I thought of you. We're both authors. Send them a book. It does not have to be a big book. It can be an ebook. It can be an article. It can be a subscription to a magazine that you love. But you taking that first step sets you apart from the other people and makes you feel less vulnerable. And it makes you feel less uncomfortable because you have taken that first step.
Yeah, and it sort of it moves that fear out of it being right in front of your face like that.
Absolutely, that's what I said.
Well, you just reminded me of a friend who has been very successful in her life, and she's always doing this every year. She has a card making event where people could come and learn how to make cards. They're note cards. Like I got one. I get a couple every year,
Yes.
But it's her way of staying in contact with everyone. And as entrepreneurial leaders, just doing that without expecting something in return makes a big difference for her business. She's become one of the top people in her industry.
Absolutely. It sets you apart.
Yes.
And I think it starts with thinking about who you know, who you need to know, and who needs to know you. And even if you put it in that context,
there's a quote that you just said. It says, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by reaching out to those that you admire.
That's right. Exactly.
What a great quote. It's a second quote that you provided me. So
yes, that's right. So people who you admire, but if you're nervous, you don't have to start there. I say, if you're nervous and uncomfortable, start with people you already know and just say, I was thinking about you. I think that next step is working with people or contacting people who you admire and saying why you admire them. People like to get compliments, and If you are admiring them, tell them why. Still not asking for anything. Love those books that you've written, Janine. You're a great author, and I refer to your brag book often. Thanks for writing it. Let's keep in touch.
You're welcome. Well, I really love that because you make it sound like it's doable. So regardless of where I'm at, and it could be to a family member, it could be to someone that you're working on a committee with or in a community event with. There's plenty of people that card can make their day, or that gift, that just small gift, which may not seem like a big deal to you, can make a big difference to them. It reminds me of a story where somebody was cleaning out, somebody had passed and their family was cleaning out their stuff, and they found something that somebody had sent them.
That's right.
It had such a meaning to them that they kept it. It was just a little card, with a picture of a cat on it. And, they love cats, and they knew that the person loved cats, right?
That's right.
It seemed so insignificant, but yet it wasn't to the person that received it.
That is so true. And, I think it says something about you and your value system. And I think that other people who receive these things feel the same way. So you get sort of check marks without asking for anything. You've developed some of those things. And I think that you're not successful without some connections. And you saying thank you, or I admire you, or I in many conversations by saying, is there anything I can do to support you?
Yes.
Now, everybody's not going to ask you. They know you're busy. They're busy as well. But sometimes it might be that they'll say, well, if you ever read an article on such and such, or you read a book that you think I'm going on vacation in a few months. If you have any good books or stories to tell, share them with me. How difficult can it be?
Right. It doesn't actually take that much more time because they're not asking you to go out and research that for them.
That's right.
It's if you come across something like that.
If you come across something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, they could do it themselves. Usually what they're asking is not something that they could not do, but sometimes they trust that you're going to give them something that they wouldn't have thought of.
Exactly.
They wouldn't have gotten. So it's not like, well, why can't you just Google home recipe?
Because I haven't taste tested it.
That's right. But
some of those recipes you got to be really careful with.
Absolutely. But you know what? You send it, and then I'm not a cook, so don't ask me. But I can Google a recipe, and I'll say, I saw this, and you might want to try it. Doesn't mean you have to, but I at least thought of you.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about one-on-one, which is a great way to get started. It doesn't matter who they are. But again, make sure it's something that you think they would like. It's not something where you're selling something.
Oh, no, you're not selling anything.
Yeah, you're just opening up the conversation, the relationship, the feeling of relatedness. So that's great. And then what about when it comes time for groups? Like, okay, that can be kind of scary because not everybody feels like they have the communication skills.
Right.
Or again, they have that fear of, what if somebody takes off on me? What am I going to do? And again, some people can today, being that everybody loves to be offended.
Yeah, right. And a whole lot of people love to offend. So yes. I get that as well. Civility is questionable sometimes these days. But I think one of the things that I like about groups, again, I'm an extrovert, so I'll start a group. Yeah. So
but that might be a good idea we're talking to entrepreneurial leaders who
that's exactly right.
They love to do stuff like that. So that's a great idea.
They can start a group, or guess what? Now, I mean, think of it. Years ago, there was no mastermind meetup groups or mastermind groups. You can do that. You can go on social media if that's your thing and join a group to hear the chatter before jumping in. So you can get comfortable first. There are ways to do that as well. But I think what we're talking about is really taking the first step and understanding why you're taking the first step. If you go in thinking somebody's going to offend you all the time, then chances are that's the way you live your life.
Yep,
I'll
exactly.
go
I
there.
agree with you. I've
And
seen them. I've seen them in action.
that's right. So I
It's like,
think
okay, folks.
time out, time out
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Let's
So,
behave.
and
Remember where you're at.
remember where you're at. But also, when we're talking about entrepreneurial leaders, sometimes um, just trying these things gives you some idea on where your blind spots are. If
Exactly.
you're saying before you ever do anything, somebody's going to jump on me, jump all over me, chances are you're not living in positive space. Anyway, so guess what? You probably shouldn't be part of a group.
Yeah.
You shouldn't go out and
Or get
so
a smaller group of like-minded people
yeah,
that,
so
you
work
guys all have the same stuff, right?
right.
Women, yeah.
Yeah, internally you need to work on it as well. But the good news is when you do that, chances are your life will be better.
Well, I would think so. Plus, it opens up a lot of new ideas. And as you know, entrepreneurs love new ideas, but sometimes they get emotionally attached to their own. And so I find if you can set that aside and truly listen to somebody's ideas, it actually enhances your own ideas.
That's exactly right. You're so right.
Yeah.
You're so right.
And so what about attending other events where they're not the organizer?
Mhm.
How do you like kind of ease your way into building a relationship or attending something like that and feeling comfortable?
Right. I like to, I like going to um, group meetings, and oftentimes I may be the only, or I might be the outlier, but I like to hear what other people have to say. So if you're going to an event, think of, again, what would you like to get from that?
Mm.
You're not going to meet everyone in the room usually, but you want to go in and ask some key questions. And if you're at a group meeting, a perfect question is what brought you to this particular meeting? I mean, you're both
Exactly.
there. So there's some things to say, and don't start selling what you're offering. Just ask questions. What brought you here? Have you been here to this type of meeting before? Do you know a lot of people? What would you like to get from this? Um, those are general questions, but they get other people talking, and they may ask you the same thing. So you need to have an answer for that as well.
Well, it reminds me of sometimes when I'm driving to an event or even getting on a Zoom meeting, right?
Mhm.
I go, okay, what do I want to get out of this meeting?
That's right.
Sometimes the only thing I say is have fun. That's
That's
all
right.
I want out of the meeting is just to have fun.
That's right.
And guess what? I have fun because that's what I created. Or, I have this pressing issue. I just don't know how to resolve it. And guess what? Usually, if you're listening and not listening to respond to somebody, but just really, truly listening, the
Yeah,
answer will pop in your head.
that's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think starting if you're uncomfortable with this type of situation, if you're uncomfortable with networking or connecting or just getting around people, start small. Start with people you know. That's not the time to say I'm going to reach out to Oprah. It's, you know, it's too big. It's too big of a leap right now. You can do that later, but you can
But boy,
start
I'd like to
small.
have a relationship with Oprah. So in
And
other words, build up slowly, right?
slowly, and start with people who have already helped you. And can never go wrong with a thank you.
I love that. So Marsha, thank you. This has been a great conversation. Even I got inspired, and I'm not a high extrovert. I'm in the middle where I love being out with people and talking and interacting and stuff, but I also love my alone times. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in that middle space there, right? So this has been great because I think for a lot of people, whether you're an extrovert and you've never met a stranger, or you're an introvert and it's like people, I think it's a great way for each and every one of us to take some time, particularly over this holiday season, to reach out, see if you can't, even if you just do it one at a time, once a week or once a day or something like that. You're going to be amazed at how that's going to help support you next year in 2023.
It's very funny. I have a short story. I take the auto train from New York to Florida, back and forth for the season. And when we come down to Florida, the end of October, beginning of November, pre-COVID, they have a big lounge area in on the train. And that's where I write my Christmas cards. I'm still the old fashioned. I like to write Christmas cards. I like writing notes to people anyway, and this is a good way to do it. So I'm writing Christmas cards. I cannot tell you how many people I have met on the train because they're passing by and they say, "Oh, what a great idea. Oh my goodness. Next year I'm going to do that. What's your name?" And there you go. A conversation has started.
That is so inspiring. So thank you.
Do whatever way you can.
Yes, thank you. So again, Marsha, thank you so much for your time. For those of you who want to get to know more about Marsha, her contact information is in our chat box. Again, this is Jeannette Seibly, the Leadership Results Coach, saying have a great day, and until next time.
Thank you.